All right, everybody, Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN. It is Football at 4, and it's powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Drops 6 o'clock Thursday mornings, of course, and Monday mornings. Jeff Mosher and this man, Adam Caplan. It's brought to you by PropSwap, America's sports betting marketplace. Sell your sports bet and take your profit. Find out how at PropSwap.com. Download the PropSwap app today. Adam, a busy time. We are less than 1 week from Eagles training camp, and all sorts of stuff is surrounding the Birds. How are you, my friend?
Glad to talk to you, Mike. Yeah, I'm good. I'm just starting to book my training camp tour. I start this coming Wednesday. The 28th at the Steelers. The next day after that, Washington. The day after that, probably the Eagles. So here we go. You're right, man. Every team by the end in the National Football League will have reported by this coming Tuesday, the 27th. So yeah, they're here. We know that a bunch of teams reported this week. Some rookies reported. I don't know why the Eagles aren't doing that. They can by rule.
Yeah,
they can absolutely do that. The rookies and quarterbacks could report a week before, but they're not. They're reporting on the 27th, and their first practice is the next day on the 28th.
All right, so there's a bunch going on, as you mentioned, a couple teams in today, Dallas, Tampa Bay, and Pittsburgh, everybody else on Tuesday. So, Adam, let's start with some of the news that came out with Zach Ertz. Obviously, Howard Eskin is the sideline reporter. He typically has news from the team, and he's hearing there's a great chance that Ertz remains with the team to start the season. Now, is it the preseason, the regular season, training camp, and that he is over the issues about the contract? So read between the lines. Give us the tea leaves here.
Yeah, I don't really comment on others who report stuff, but we will respond to stuff that we knew already. In fact, Jeff and I were going to report this on Monday, but we give Howard credit. We definitely will credit him for two things, which we know are true for a fact. And barring something unforeseen, Ertz will report with the team on Tuesday, the 27th. He's been planning this. I'm not going to give you everything on this because we want people to listen to our show, but I'm going to give you some nuggets that are going to tease you. Sirianni and Ertz have talked. Okay, they've talked. That has something to do with this. We can't say 100% for sure what the reasoning is. We detailed on this show about the fines if he doesn't show up, and there are a lot of reasons why he would be smart to show up. Part of it is also from a leverage standpoint, if he doesn't show up, in addition to potentially getting close to $1 million in fines, which cannot be rescinded, by the way, by showing up, now the point is, what if he gets hurt? Not that he wants to get hurt, obviously. Nobody wants him to get hurt. But if he would suffer a debilitating injury, could not play this season, Eagles owe him that $8.5 million. And by the way, he counts over $12 million against the cap this season. So that's an issue here. But Howard's right. There's no doubt. Again, barring anything unforeseen, Zach Ertz plans to show up with his team and report on time. He is under contract, so he'd be holding out if he didn't show up, which he's not going to do. And then, Howard's right. The other thing we know he's right about is that he had been working out at NovaCare for at least a few weeks. But I could tell you his decision to report this on Tuesday is not something that's recent. This decision was made several weeks ago. He for whatever reason, and we detail some of the reasons on today's show, he's just deciding to do it and report with his teammates. But that to me certainly is a sideshow to a very interesting training camp.
Yeah, a couple questions on that, Adam. One, is this going to be an Alshon Jeffrey, Travis Fulgham situation where Ertz is getting more snaps than Goddard because of his stature on the team?
No. I think I think Dallas Goedert gave the secret away when he all out of the blue, he confirmed to the media before they broke for the summer, that they're negotiating his extension. Well, you're not going to pay him. Let's say, by argument's sake, that they get a deal done, right? I will tell you as a fact, per season, he will not sign for any deal that's even close to what Ertz is making. You're looking at double digits average per year. Ertz, at the time he got his extension, got a very good deal. But, that was a long time ago. He's restructured 4 times, by the way, over the years. He's done the right thing by the club. But what I'm told on Goddard, and I put this on our show, 3 or 4 weeks ago, is that from what I understand, Goddard will not sign a deal that is not a market deal. For instance, like the deals now for tight ends are anywhere from what Austin Hooper got at with the Browns for $10.5 million a year. Now he was an unrestricted free agent, but that is a market deal. That was a really nice deal for him. And you know what's interesting about that deal with Hooper? The Niners actually they weren't willing to pay him as much 2 years ago, but they weren't too far away from $10.5 million, and they may kill the highest paid tight end in NFL history by a mile at $15.5 million. But on Goddard, he's going to want a deal that's going to beat Hooper. Well, to do that, it's hard to imagine that they're going to get a deal done with Ertz still on the team, and it's weird.
Yeah.
It's kind of awkward.
How did it get to this? Did they because wasn't there was some suggestion that a deal was imminent, this is going to happen. Obviously everybody thought
it was never imminent.
And then
what we reported is that the Eagles felt very strongly, and I did. I was wrong in that he would be traded by the end of the draft, but I also backed that up on the same podcast and said if it doesn't get done, he won't be on the team this fall. That this is kind of what we felt all along.
Right.
Nothing's really changed my mind. I'm surprised, as everyone on both sides, is that he's still an Eagle. He's under contract, and that's where they are.
Yeah. I'm interested to see his role in this offense. I mean, is he just going to be a bit player? Do they have a big
role? I don't know.
Right?
Now, again, that's if by chance he is on the roster this fall, it's Goddard's tight end position. He is going to be their main guy. He'll play the most snaps. There's no question about that. And then the other thing is, and this is what we outline about 10 reasons for or against what would happen if Ertz is on the team, what happens as he's off. One of the things that we talked about is, Mike, and I think this is what you're alluding to, what happens if Ertz is on the team? Well, unfortunately, you're kind of forced with the hand of Doug Peterson was forced. It wasn't his fault. If Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert are on the team, you're more of a heavy 12 personnel team. You don't have a choice.
Yeah.
What are you going to pay him? $8.5 million and let him play 10 snaps? That's
exactly.
not going to happen.
Exactly. That's a great point. That's what I'm wondering. And Moshe and I were talking about this on Wednesday's Football at 4 about, what's his role? Do you play two tight ends? What does that do to Rieger or Fulgham? Obviously, it's not going to do anything to Smith, we would imagine, but how does that change the complexion of what this offense looks like? That all starts on Tuesday when Eagles camp. You can listen to the Inside the Birds podcast with Adam and Jeff. Of course, they will lay this out in much more detail because we have other stuff we want to get to. All right, Steve Nelson. He tweeted, today or tomorrow, stay tuned. Well, today and tomorrow has passed. What do we know?
It's a funny story. So I wasn't following him on Twitter, and Moshe, I'm going to say on Tuesday, texted me, said, hey, you should see this. Look what Nelson said. I'm like, wow, okay, he's going to make this decision. So I joined his Twitter, I'm following him. And the next morning, he deleted his account was gone. Then later on Wednesday, it was there, but the tweet that he put out is gone. Our understanding is he had not made a decision. We actually checked into that. We discussed that on our show this morning. And Jeff had a really good nugget. So this we were trying to find out, and Jeff got it. He had heard from sourcing that Nelson actually has interest in the Eagles because it had never been reported. All that had been reported by us and other outlets is that the Eagles have had interest in Nelson. We've been quoted everywhere on it. I get that. But on the show that dropped today, Jeff said that he had heard very strongly, very good source, that Nelson indeed has interest in the Eagles. So now we think that a big part of it is not so much money. If you look at the teams that have been floated out there, this is the only team where you could go in and there's no competition for being a starter. That does mean a lot.
Yeah, obviously this team needs a lot of help. We've chronicled that throughout the summer. If they can get something done today, he enters camp on Tuesday clearly as a starting outside corner on this team. Not even any competition, correct?
Yeah, no. He walks in. In fact, this really would help them. If this gets done, he starts opposite Slay. McPherson does not have to be rushed in there. He'll be the top or one of the top backup outside corners. This is the biggest impact. This is major. Having Avonte Maddox be their slot corner, which is what he was drafted for. This is something we outlined on our show this morning. That would be huge. So we'll see what happens.
Adam Caplan from the Inside the Birds podcast. Make sure you download it, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Pods, Google Play. Also check out InsideTheBirds.com and the YouTube. And at the end of this, Adam, we'll let you outline everything you got coming up for the season. I know you guys have got great things happening. We love the partnership here for Football at 4. And as Moshe said the other day, we talked football all summer, and now football is here. It's getting real. But what's not real is Landon Dickerson. What's going on there?
Yeah, we promised our listeners, we got a lot of questions about this. We weren't going to deal with the Dickerson issue if he was not signed within a week. Well, he's not signed. Moshe and I had some nuggets on our show this morning. It's definitely contractually related. It's not. This is a small surprise to me that it would take this long, but because the rookies are not reporting this week, for the life of me, I don't understand it. Why the Eagles are not doing what the other teams are doing, because they could, but they're not. But if he's not signed by Tuesday, the 27th, this coming Tuesday, it would shock me because I know that Dickerson's got a major injury history. They knew this going in. It's not a surprise to them. I just don't understand why they can't figure out a way. There's got to be some kind of middle ground. Mm-hmm. It's not just about offset language. It's protection, and we'll see what happens here. But, yeah, it's a surprise that he's not been signed.
All right, Adam, obviously. By the way, if he's signed and in there, is he in the mix to start? Is he in competition?
No. The first thing they have to figure out from a physical standpoint where he's at. But we put this nugget out a couple weeks ago on our show. We had heard that don't just say he's going to be Kelsey's replacement next year if Kelsey retires. They may wind up moving Seumalo from guard to center. Remember, when Seumalo was drafted in 16, he was drafted to be Kelsey's replacement. They did not know at 16 that Kelsey would be able to revive his career in a big way. Remember that Kelsey was available many years ago via trade, very quietly, but the Eagles made him available because he had sort of hit a regression, and then he brought it back up, and it was terrific. And it's so much so that not only will he be an Eagles Hall of Famer, I know these are subjective with offensive linemen because they're not great metrics on it, but we got to start talking about him for the Hall of Fame. If he plays 2 or 3 more years, I think he starts getting consideration for it. That's how good of a football player he is.
Very interesting. And it'll be interesting to see if he does play 2 or 3 more years, because there's been a lot of speculation, as you know, the last couple of years that this would be it. 2 to 3, I think, would be surprising, don't you?
Yeah, but the way we reported it is that, number one, we were told that both sides expected him to retire but left a little window open. But as we had noted on our show 6 weeks or 8 weeks ago, could be more than that. I know it's in the spring. We talked about this, that if Kelsey wants to come back, they have to redo his deal. There's a $30 million poison pill early next June, which means it forces both sides to renegotiate his deal. They can't this way that it gets him back to the table if he wants to play. And we'll see. I've learned with Jason Kelsey, as he said, and it's definitely true, he reviews his health every year and whether he wants to play or not. So I've learned my lesson: never count this guy out.
Adam, what do we think about the usage of rookie Kenny Gainwell in the offense? I'm kind of really intrigued by this. I saw, motion DeCecco did team Kerryon Johnson versus Howard, but I'm more intrigued by this guy.
Yeah, I'll tell you, the more I look into this, we had his college head coach, Ryan Silverfield, on Inside the Birds television recently, and he made a really interesting point, which I actually went back and listened to because I wanted to make sure I got it right. What he said is they put a lot on their running backs, particularly in the pass game. And Gainwell played that X position sometimes. They would split him out wide, and they ask him to do a lot. Slot, running back, offset back, X receiver, and then you got to block too. And that's important at this level. And from what I've heard, he's a fairly quick learner. He had a fantastic OTAs. Now, I understand they didn't do 11-11 on 7-on-7. He dominated on one-on-ones. If from a mental standpoint, he picks everything up in addition to probably being their kickoff returner, or a good chance to be. Not only will he dress every week, there are going to be weeks where you go, oh my goodness, wow. And as I detail on the show this morning, I am buying that Sirianni is going to do a good job as play caller. I've talked to a bunch of guys who've worked with him in the past. They think he's going to do a great job, not only as a head coach, but as a play caller. And I'm going to trust him in this area.
All right. Everybody asked me who the punter is, and I haven't been able to give an answer to this. So, number one, who's the punter, and is there competition for that job? Because they had to let go of a pretty good one for salary cap reasons.
Yeah, look, the Cam Johnston one, we really kind of didn't really talk about this very much because he's a punter, and he had been a good story taking over for Donnie Jones, who was the Eagles Super Bowl punter. But Cam Johnston, they declined to tender him as restricted free agent, which is a surprise considering they were trying to negotiate an extension last year, and they just couldn't reach one. And now they did. I know he didn't have a great year, but they did. The Texans gave him a pretty strong contract. So Aaron Sipos is his name. He's a Australian rules kicker, punter. He's late 20s. He was with the Lions practice squad last year, and we put a nugget out on our show this morning that right now, of course, things could change. We know that everything's subject to change. They're probably not going to bring in competition for him, which would suggest to me he must have had a good off season. We had talked to a bunch of agents who have punters, and I thought for sure they'd bring somebody in. So what I did is I went back and researched. Like every punter has been released over the last year and not brought back, and guys who've been in camps. There's like 20, 25 of them. I must have talked about to 8 or 9 of them. They all said the same thing when they talked to the Eagles. Whoever they talked to, the word was that the Eagles were not going to bring in competition. That's why they haven't signed anyone. Now, if he has got a bad week of practice, could they bring someone in? Sure, but that's what we're hearing.
All right, Adam Caplan from the Inside the Birds podcast. The boys are back. Football is back. Monday's podcast was really good, Adam. Can you share a blooper, a story, something with our listeners as kind of the breadcrumbs if they didn't listen to your path to Inside the Birds and Football at 4 and your career covering the NFL? Because I thought that was a really fun one.
Actually, you know what? We didn't even talk about how Inside the Birds came about. You know what? I'll do this now.
There's a podcast for you. I just gave you one.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I said there's a new podcast idea for you. I just gave you one.
Right. No, well, I'll do this now. So I'll make this very quick. In 2018, Billy Osborne.
Wildwood's own.
Of course. Yes, Billy. So Bill's a friend, and Bill asked me if I want to do a radio show. I was like, you know what? Let me talk to a friend of mine. You don't know him, Jeff Mosher. I believe he and I think alike on most things, and I've always wanted to work with him. Now he and I are available at the same time. So let me talk to him. Billy was open to it. So I wanted to. The only thing I told Billy, I said, I want to do an insider pod show, whether it's a radio show or podcast. I'm not interested in doing a talk show. I'm interested in doing a thoughts, process, information type podcast. Nobody's doing anything like this. So Billy liked the idea because Billy knows personnel, and he was a scout, and he was with the Eagles practice squad. He knows football. I talked to Jeff. Jeff loved the idea. He said in immediately, and then Billy dropped off after the first year. And it's just been Jeff and I, and it's kind of, I don't want to say we were winging it. We were trying to figure it out the first year in 18, and then became, as I said, a 2-person show. And then we listened to our viewers and listeners. They told us kind of what they wanted, and 75% of what we were doing they wanted and didn't want us to change. The big thing that they wanted us to do more of, and this shocked us about podcasting, they don't want under an hour. Like they've been on our bleep about this. Like, don't go under an hour. Quentin Michael and Jason Avant, they don't want them to be under an hour. So all of us, we're going over an hour, folks. So if you listen to us, you might have to listen to us in 2 parts because it's not something that you're going to listen to for 20 minutes and turn it off.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I know you are a wrestling guy, but if you listen to any of the Conrad Thompson stuff, those things are 2.5, 3-hour podcasts. It takes me a week to get through those episodes sometimes, but so listen to Monday's edition. They share stories about how they got into the industry, into the business, their kind of paths to get to everywhere. Adam, Jeff, it was really good. I thought Monday was a fun one. Some bloopers, some things that you guys have done along the way. So check that out, the Monday edition. Today's edition has more on everything we discussed today on Football at 4. And Adam Caplan, Jeff Mosher, Andrew DeCecco is here tomorrow. We'll preview the NFC East with him. And then on Tuesday, the Eagles report for camp. All right, Adam, good to see you, man.
Thank you.